What's going on, guys? Let's build a forge. Hey, before I get into the video here, I was just rewatching. I edited up the Patreon video last night and got that up online, and I noticed how frustrated and upset I appeared in that video. So I'm editing this one way down and taking out a lot of that frustration. I want to sum it up for you though real quick. On a Facebook group, someone asked the question, what forge burner is best in your opinion? A bunch of people were giving their opinions, and then there were a ton of, you got to do a ribbon burner or you're stupid comments. And I said, not responding to anyone in particular, keep an open mind. There's not a perfect burner for anything. Ribbon burners are great for what they are. I do plan to build one coming soon in a forge near you. But they're not the end up beat all God's gift to forge burners. They are a great burner, but if you don't have his power supply, if you've got a different design in mind than what a ribbon burner will do and heat up efficiently, then they're not the burner for you. And I just said keep an open mind. Don't use PSI to gauge unless you're comparing orifice to orifice on your propane delivery and blah 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 blah. Anyways, I got jumped on. I got jumped on that. I got jumped on in private messages galore. I was getting emails from people I've never had any contact with telling me I was an idiot. One guy said I was being dangerous by telling people to keep an open mind about forge burners. So that's why you haven't seen a video. It got me so mad and so upset that I just shut down. I backed off from everything, and it's taken a while for me to decide to put these videos out on this forge build, and I decided, I don't give a damn what anyone thinks. My opinion is my opinion, and it's never going to change. Be open-minded. Same way about bituminous coal and anthracite coal. Be open-minded. Use what works for you. Ribbon burners are a great burner. That's not what I'm going with. I'm going with a forced air burner. But if a ribbon burner is what you like, then use it and be proud of it and be happy and all that. The rest of it, I'm going to try and edit out all the parts where I was frustrated and angry, and it just came through in the video because I don't think that'll be real entertaining for you. So, yeah, alright, let's get going with it. So welcome to my forge building video. This entire series, which I'm thinking is probably going to be about 3 videos worth, is going to be brought to you by Hard Luck Forge, where I ordered all my castable from and a bunch of other stuff, and I'll tell you all about them coming up because they have been so helpful. I'm giving them all the credit for this whole build. So let's get into it. So today's video, I'm going to be focused on building the burners or getting them together. So for this one, I'm doing 2 forced air burners for the length of the forge. Over the last few months, I've been doing a lot of research into burners. And I've been second guessing myself every step of the way about what I need, what I want to build, and all this stuff. The flavor of the month in forge burners is the ribbon burner. A ribbon burner is an extremely efficient burner if it's made correctly. That doesn't mean that the ribbon burner is right in every application, because a ribbon burner is a forced air burner, and if you have an application where you have no electricity to force that air, a ribbon burner isn't your perfect burner. For the forge I'm building, for the length of it, for what I want my forge to do, a ribbon burner is not going to be the ideal burner. It's a great burner when it's made right. Let me give you a real quick example of what a ribbon burner is. So a normal forge burner, the straight tube ones, you've got your air intake, you're feeding propane in through some kind of jet. Sometimes, it's the line here with a hole in it. Sometimes it's just a jet coming down. But you're feeding propane in. And through the Venturi effect, it is lowering the air pressure in here, which increases the air pressure out here, which sucks the air in, which combines the propane and the air, comes out here, there's your burner. Forced air burner is this, but you're forcing air in through electronic means with some kind of blower. A ribbon burner is basically a forced air burner, except when you get to the burner part, after you introduce the propane into the burner, you're doing different things to try and get the propane to mix correctly. You've got it coming around at angles, creating all kinds of turbulence in here, which is going to get the air and the propane to mix. Inside, you've seen the ribbon burners. Down here you have all these little holes. That's where your burner is, and it's like a castable, like a refractory something. Up here is all metal, and here comes the pipe into here, and there's some kind of baffle system in here that forces the air and the propane out, and there's some holes in here, and it mixes things, and it's supposed to create a better mix of the air and the propane, so when it shoots out these little holes that go all the way through this refractory, it's mixed and distributed, and you get a much better burn. The thing about a burner is you want to get the potential maximum amount of BTUs out of the propane into the forge in the most efficient way possible. Does a ribbon burner make that delivery and that consumption of the propane more efficient? I'm not 100% sold on it. I think it is an extremely efficient design. It may dissipate the heat and spread it out better, which is ideal for certain forging applications. But there are some times where you want that concentrated heat as well, which is why I say keep an open mind about your forge burner. So the argument that these people make is PSI pressure for the ribbon burners or the forced air burners, for any burner. PSI pressure means bupkis, and I want to explain that. Okay, so just for a second, think about a garden hose. Okay, when you've got the open end of a garden hose, here's where you're looking into the garden hose, and it runs back this way. And someone turns the water on and it's just coming out. You're probably not going to have any pounds per square inch in that garden hose. You turn the spigot on, but the water's just free flowing out. You're going to have 0 psi, or maybe 1 or 2 psi depending on where you measure it, but basically you've just got a free flow of water. Now picture sticking your thumb over the edge of that hole. Okay? You stick your thumb over the edge of that hole, so it's just spurting out there. Now you can spray your siblings and your kids and all that. Hey, I'm going to get you with the hose. I'm going to rinse all the soap off the car. And we've all done that. Stuck your thumb over the end of the hose. Well, now you've forced the water to come out slower, but with more force, and you have increased the PSI in this line dramatically. So now think about your closed gas system on your propane forge burner. You've got gas in here. You're releasing it through a spigot. It goes up through a regulator, which is just another spigot. But let's say those two are wide open, and you're coming down here. If you've got a nice, great, big one, let's say you don't have any end on that. You just have an open tube. Boom. The gas is coming out. You're going to get 0 psi on this system. And all you're doing is dumping gas into wherever you're dumping gas into. It's coming out the can, and it is coming out, it is spraying out here as fast as that hose or that pipe will allow it to spray out, and you're going to have 0 psi on your gauge. 0 maybe 1, maybe 2, depending on how small your hose is, but basically 0 psi. Now, put a little tiny jet on there with a .035 opening. That PSI is going to shoot up, and you're going to go from 0 PSI to 10 PSI, or whatever it is, because you've just stuck your thumb over the end of the hose. Now you take that .035 valve and you open it up to 0.1. Well, PSI is going to go down because you've taken your thumb off a little bit of that hose. PSI is going to go down. Gas usage is going to go up because you're letting more gas out. I really hope that makes sense. I hope you were paying attention and didn't skip over that part, because that is the most important part about propane forge burners, is consumption rate, is flow rate. How fast is that gas leaving the bottle? Not what PSI you're running, and not comparing a Venturi burner running this PSI to a forced air burner running this PSI, because you're most likely going to be using different openings. You can use a jet. I mean, a Venturi burner needs a jet to force that propane out and expand it and get it to mix with the air. a forced air burner or a ribbon burner, you can use a larger opening and just let the air and the baffles and everything you're putting in there mix it, so you don't need to use the same type of jet. And so you're almost never going to be able to compare PSI usage. In my experimenting to try and determine what type of burner I want to go with, I built this forge originally with 2 Venturi burners on it. To determine what kind of forge burner I want, I went and started playing around with just trying to force some air down into the top of the Venturi burner. This is sitting on my coal forge. There's my hair dryer that I use to power air into my coal forge. This hose usually hooks up to all the plumbing down here for the coal forge, but I ran it up to a little piece of whatever that is. You know, I got it at the hardware store, and I cut it out so that it fit around all the plumbing. Used some aluminum tape to tape it closed over this burner, and I basically made a poor man's forced air forge burner. Now, because I'm using the exact same size jet in my delivery system from the propane tank, my PSI suddenly becomes comparable because I didn't change the jet size. I'm still using whatever jet size I had. So I was able to say, normally I have to run it at 10 psi to get to forge welding temperature. Now I can run it at 2 psi to get to forge welding temperature. I was able to do that. So in this burner alone, I can say that. All right, so that was a lot of yakking for pretty much just a little bit of knowledge, but I want to emphasize how non-important PSI is when it comes to forge burners. So I got a big old box here that just came today from Hard Luck Forge, which has a bunch of the stuff in I need in order to put my forge together. So I'm gonna open it up. Here is my rigidizer. This is you put this on the KO wool to make it firmer, really. If you're not putting any refractory on your KO wool, this is an absolute necessary must-have. You don't want to get any of that crap in your lungs kind of stuff. Okay, so this is Castellite 30. This is going to be the main refractory. Castellite 90 or Greencast 94, which is going to be more flux resistant. I got the fire bricks. These are, I think, I ordered the up to 3,000 degrees resistance, so no worry about these melting. And then KO wool. I have some KO wool. I wasn't sure I had enough, and so I got some more just in case. Better to have too much, and you know, maybe I can pass it on to someone or build them a forge or something as I go. If I wound up with too much. I do want to say how cool it has been to work with Hard Luck Forge. I've been asking a lot of questions on what kind of refractory I need, forge design, fire chamber, you know, going over what I want to forge with what my design is, and you know, how well it will work. And I've got one particular task in mind while I'm designing this, but then when that task is over with, I want to have a forge that is going to serve me well into the future. And so it's been you know, a lot of discussion about what's going to work best, and what product I need. So you can get anything you need there as far as castable refractories, fire bricks, KO wool. They've got the soft fire bricks, they've got 2-inch KO wool, they've got 1-inch KO wool. They've got anything you're going to need if you're building a forge. And then they've got a great section on answering questions, how to mix the different refractories and how to fire them and cure them and all that, so that you wind up with the perfect A1 forge. So I'm going to put links in the description to Hard Luck Forge, and I can't thank them enough for sponsoring this whole forge build. It's been pretty dang cool. Do we want to see what I'm building the forge out of, or do we want to get right to the burners today? Well, I did title this one forge burners. So let's get to the forge burners. I am going with the design by Christ-Centered Ironworks. I'm not going to get into the details of what they are, because Roy and Jess, they sell their plans. I bought them from them, and I don't want to give away anything that's, you know, they're selling. That seems in poor spirit to what they're doing. So you can go watch their videos. You can try and extrapolate how to do it from there. On my Patreon videos, I will go over some of the differences that I'm doing, some of the changes that I'm making from their design. But here for you guys, just suffice it to say I'm going with Roy from Christ-Centered Ironworks, his design for the forced air burner. So there's a big old pile of stuff. Alright, so this is basically, that's the gas side of the burner. Here's the air side of the burner. That's going to get forge welded down in there. We'll have to change the angle of these, but that's easy enough. Not forge welded, but get welded down in there. Bada boom, bada bing. And there will be my two burners for the new forge. So I think that's where I'm going to end this video. I know the burner isn't all put together. You know, I've got to put the tape on it. I've got to drill the holes. I've actually got to clean some galvanization off that. Go put it in some acid. Excuse me. Go put it in some acid. And then I'm going to put the burners together. So by the time I start the next video, the burners will be done. We'll cut up the old tank. We'll start getting the kale wool in it. We'll try doing some of the refractory, and hopefully the forge burner will be put together and ready to go. Just real quick, I didn't have these up and going last night, but they're going now, and so thought I'd fire them up, and you can see just at the end of the video here, looking pretty dang good. I cannot wait to finish this forge up. I'll put a link in the description to Hard Luck Forge, who is sponsoring this whole build. I will put a link to Roy's video on this particular burner, and from there you can get links to his webpage where you can buy the plans and the parts lists and all that. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're just going to yell at me about the ribbon burners, you're not going to change my mind on it. It's a great burner, don't get me wrong. Everybody, see, the minute I say that, they all think I'm hating on ribbon burners. I'm not. I like ribbon burners. All I said was keep an open mind. It's not the perfect burner for every situation, and man, do they come out of the woodwork to scream at me. So if you're going to scream at me because I don't agree with you, then keep your comments to yourself and go on your merry way. Otherwise, I will see you on the next Forge build video. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Hard Luck Forge. See ya. Bye.